Hey everybody, I'm Garcia, and today I'm taking a look at a story-driven game of choices. This is Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. Much as you would suspect, this is a gamification of the original book from the 80s. They have taken the ideas, the Choose Your Own Adventure style, of course, and put those on cards, and added a little bit of gameplay to it. There's a little bit of die rolling, keeping track of a couple of stats in the game. But you are basically, just like you do in the books, going to be reading a story, usually something very light, very silly sometimes, pseudo-spooky sometimes, and then making choices as to what you do. Do you want choice A? Go read this card. Do you want choice B? Go read this other card. With, again, a little more to it than that. Let's go ahead and take a look at it. I'm not going to be spoiling anything except setup here and explaining the mechanisms and things like that. If you want to know nothing whatsoever, then maybe just jump on ahead to the what I think of the game at the end of the video. But again, I'm not going to be spoiling any of the actual choices that you would make, the consequences of those choices. So let's take a look at it. We'll come on back after that. Here's everything that comes in the game. You are going to get your stack of story cards. You have over here your clue cards, the board that shows your psychic scale and your danger meter, the die and the two tokens you need, and then your rule book. That's it. Very few components. I do want to make sure I mention that I'm not going to be spoiling anything here for you. I'm just going to take you all the way up to the first choice you would have, and then I'm going to stop showing you the outcome of that choice, okay? So to set up, you're going to pick your chapter 1 here. This is all 5 chapters combined. So I'm just going to go ahead and pull out chapter 1 cards, which would be that much of the deck there. And that's going to be in play. The other ones you can set aside for now. And then also same thing for the clues, just all the ones that you would need for chapter 1. So let me get these and put the rest aside. That's all the clues you're going to need for chapter 1. These are all the ones for chapter 2 and through 5 there. So I'll put all that aside. You begin on the 3 on the psychic scale. On that marked 3 there for the danger meter. You do get a couple of starting cards at the beginning of the game. I'll show you these. So you have a bottle of water there that you can use. As it says, you can discard it at any time to lower your danger meter by 3. So you have that available to you. And then you have a pocket knife that you can use to help you in some specific challenges in the game. The rest of these can just be set aside for now. And then you are ready to begin. And so you are going to take this one off. This is simply a cover card. And then you would read the story there that details dreams you've been having, this mansion you've been seeing in your dreams, okay? Next up is the back of that card. It always tells you on the bottom what to do next. In this case, you would read all this. You would continue on to story card 1, it says, which is this one here. The number is right there at the top of the card. And it tells you what's going on in the story, people you're talking to. You eventually do find this place that you've been seeing in your dreams. And we flip over to the back of that card, and we go here. So this one lets you know, you, by the way, got a strange phone call, so it lets you know here, draw clue 26 to discover your goal. Fine. Well, I'll show you that one. Again, this is all basically set up. Clue 26 would be this one. We flip that over, and it tells you what your chapter 1 goal is. Simply get inside the Marston house. This goes up here. And that lets you know what your goal is for this chapter. And then at the very bottom of this card, you've got your first choice, okay? So you found the place, you have walked up to it, and your first choice is, if you search the wall for a way in, you go to story card 13, meaning we'd find 13 in here and you'd start reading that. If you climb the gate, go to story card 7. And you can do that instead. And then from there, you are going to get new story outcomes. You are going to get new choices that you can make in order to advance what's going on in the story. You are going to be discovering new items you can keep, new clues. You'll get premonitions, which are images that you can hang on to, and they'll help you, hopefully, in the future in the story. But the final thing I want to mention is how these two tracks here work and how these tests here work. So let's go ahead and cover this up again, and let me talk about that. So the idea is you are tracking here the levels of your psychic abilities. And some cards later on in the game, especially in further chapters, are going to give you things or ask you to check your psychic level. And so level 1 would go all the way up to here to 5. If you're level 2, and a card later on says, if you are level 2 or higher, you can take this clue. So if you qualify, you go ahead and find that clue and put it in your inventory here. If you ever have to make a test, which are optional or mandatory, then the test is going to come with a symbol attached to it. For example, for fighting, for observation, things like that. And in the manual here, you will find the different kinds of tests you can make. So as I said, fighting, and a dexterity test, a perception test, things like that. You can choose to use one of the items you've got to help you make that test. The idea is you take it, you slide it down here, and for example, if I'm using my knife here and I'm making a fighting test, I can get a +1. How do you make that test? You're going to roll the die, and you're going to compare your total to the danger meter. So I'm going to roll that. I got a 3. Assuming I'm using my pocket knife there, my total is actually 4. That's enough. All I need to do is match the number on the track. Even without using the pocket knife, I would have passed on a 3. Every card is going to tell you a win condition and a lose condition, what you do. So if you win, read this card. If you lose, then move your danger meter 2, and you may try again. For example, that could be one of the things. If you ever roll a 1, it's an automatic failure no matter what, and you even lose the item that you were using to help you with that test. If you ever move this track all the way to the top by exact count or more, you are going to lose 2 points on the psychic scale and then reset to there. And then you continue with your story. And every card, again, is going to guide you as to whether you need to go read a clue, you need to go read a story card, choices, outcomes. All of that is very, very clearly laid out. So that should give you an idea of how the whole game sort of comes together. I cannot show you any more, of course, for fear of spoiling something that's an actual choice in the game. But this is just pretty much mechanisms and setup for the game. Let's go back up top. Let me tell you what I think about it. All right, so that's House of Danger. Let me tell you what I thought about it. I'm going to start with thematic ties, okay? I think the theme here, what they've done of taking the book and adapting it to a game, and the thematic tie that they've kept to that book is really fantastic. It does very much appeal, I think, to that same audience that would enjoy the book, where the gamification part that they've added is not overwhelming. It is still very much allowing for this story with all its weirdness and humor and, strange choices, things like that, to shine. It's allowing for that to be the centerpiece in the package here. And I'm happy with that. So thematic ties are very well done. Aesthetics, component quality, the artwork, things like that. I think the artwork in the game is good. Certainly has a lot of, again, if you are familiar with the books originally, the nostalgia value here is very high. The quality of the cards is quite low. The insert in the game is very low quality. That was the main thing that surprised me when I first opened this up. It says Z-Man on the box here, so I'm expecting Z-Man quality components, but it's very much a mass market quality production from that point of view. It's just cards, just a couple of components, so it's not a big deal. But I have to mention it. It's the kind of thing that might also surprise you going into it. Just how sort of mass market everything feels, the component quality. So not a major problem, but surprising. Replayability. Does the game scale well? And are there new things to discover from play session to play session? This is a big one, okay? You're going to play through 5 chapters here. You can play them all in one sitting if you want to. You can take breaks between the chapters and save your progress. I don't think there's a lot of replayability past that, as in starting the campaign over again, you will have missed some things. I'm not 100% sure if it's worth going through it all again, unless you simply adored the story and treat it as I'm reading a book again, which is fine. You could do that. But as far as the engagement that comes from the gameplay side of it, I don't think it's enough to support you through another full play of it. What is there? The 5 chapters, that's good. And that's going to get you, obviously, 5 plays of it. You could then easily hand it to someone else, right? And they could play through it. But the replayability on that, on that front, I would say is pretty low. The other thing is scaling. How does the game scale? I think this plays fantastically solitaire. You can just read the cards to yourself, make the choices, and so on. If you're playing in a group, there is no real input from individuals. You are all working basically as a single person. You are all making choices. You are going to be at a reading circle. That's largely how it's going to transpire. You'll be reading to each other. You can pass the card around. People can look at the paintings. But the engagement from that point of view really comes down to what you think of that idea. Is the idea of sitting around reading to one another appealing to you? If you think that sounds good, then this is something I think you're going to enjoy multiplayer, because that's largely what you're doing. And I'm not saying the text is difficult to read. I'm not even saying it's particularly lengthy. It's punchy, it's quick, it sort of gets to what it wants to talk about. And it can be silly and funny and all that. Again, a lot like the books. But you are sort of just reading to each other and then making a choice, which any one of you could make. There's no group dynamic, really. Game length. Is it interesting the whole time? Does it get repetitive? This one's, again, tricky just because of the style of game it is. But each session is going to be a nice amount of length, I think. For you to go from setup of a chapter through the things you discover, going this way and that, open that door or that door, and then finally get to the objective for the chapter. That's a good length of time. And I found each sitting to be very enjoyable because it does not drag out. Now, obviously, it's going to be a little bit longer if you are reading out loud to one another, if you are embellishing, if you are, taking your time making the choices, actually talking out what might happen, which is probably silly because if you know anything about these books, logic is not a big part of it. You could pick the better sounding of 2 options and then die. That's how that goes. But game length, I am content with. I like that. Ease of play. Is it fiddly? Are there any extraneous rules? Is it easy to teach? This game knocks it out of the park when it comes to being easy to teach and being approachable and being something that translates from readers of the books to players of the game fantastically. That's one of my favorite things about it, I think. That it is one of the best examples I've seen of a game inspired by something else maintaining so much of that flavor. If you are someone who likes choose-your-own-adventure books, you should play this. If you are someone who remembers the books fondly and you maybe want to share them now with, maybe a younger generation, you maybe want to share with your kids, want to share with, friends, whatever it may be, then this is a good one for that as well. And so the ease of play goes hand in hand with bridging that gap between just someone who's a reader and someone who is a gamer. You are going to definitely get a meld of the two there. Lastly, tactics and strategy. Is it too lucky? Is it balanced? Is it interesting? Are there interesting choices? Things like that. It's, again, kind of hard to talk about this because it's not a game designed to be tactical or strategic or even lucky necessarily. Now, the game is certainly, quote-unquote, lucky, right? You are making choices without knowing what's going to come out. You are rolling dice a little bit and seeing what happens there. You can affect those dice a little bit. But largely, you are along for the ride. If you are showing up at the table to play this, you should know that you are in for a silly, ridiculous story with bizarre things happening and just some light, goofy fun. That's what this promises. On that front, I think it delivers. you know? So, all that to say, very well themed game, fun, interesting idea, mechanically simple, but it gives you what it needs to give you. I love collecting things and discovering things. I love the paintings that are these premonitions you have. So you draw a card and it shows you a little piece of a painting. The theme and the ideas here at play are really fun. The game is not particularly well produced from a component point of view. It is a one-shot type activity, pretty much, but it is enjoyable. And I was surprised that A, this got made at all, because I wasn't expecting a choose-your-own-adventure board game, but B, that it is so close to the book, and that they really did not break the mold, so to speak, in order to turn this into a game. And you know what? I'm content with that. I enjoy this. So this is a good one. You know at this point, I think, if this is something that would be up your alley, you know? If you want more gameplay, if you want something a little more heavy, if you want more interesting choices that are not silly and possibly random outcomes, then this is maybe not for you. But if you enjoyed those choose-your-own-adventure books, you miss the wonder of yesteryear, so to speak, this is going to be fun. So, there you go. This one's going to get a seal of approval from me. Choose Your Own Adventure, House of Danger. I hope they keep these coming. I'm ready to play the next one. I'm going to have a good time with that. So, thanks for checking this out with me. I'm Z Garcia. I'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com.